And we back.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Should we get Matthew McConaughey just to do that for us? One time?
I can actually get little clips of sound on here, and I can press the button, and that sound will come on.
All right.
All right.
I think that's a very good book to read.
So Green Lights
By the
is the only book I would recommend listening to over reading because he reads it to you, and he is so
that's cool.
engaging. It's insane.
Maybe we should do it again.
It is bonkers. He's so good. I
I'm
would
gonna do that,
really
actually.
recommend it.
Yeah, because I enjoyed that book.
It's a phenomenal book, and when he reads it to you, you are listen. What we were talking about earlier about the male bonding, I am bonded.
Yeah, he's
his
definitely. If I had to watch any movie or if there's any option of Matthew McConaughey, it would be him.
He's phenomenal. Yep.
There's only one Matthew McConaughey, so he is the only option.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. No, if there was an option of the gayism.
Like if he had a twin, I would still pick him.
But then there might be another book that might be good because the Will Smith book is quite nice.
But Will Smith smacked that other
yeah,
oak
I
at the
know.
Oscars.
No, it's
so
fine. He's still quite
no,
cool.
Brie, no. So
man,
average.
come, don't be soft.
No, but the other oak was hilarious. So
Yeah.
do you realize what happened? What's the other guy's name?
Chris Rock.
Chris Rock. Okay, so Chris Rock talked about Will Smith's wife as G.I. Joe because her head is bald. Okay, fair enough. It's a great joke. All right. He didn't say, oh, Chris Rock. He didn't say Will Smith's husband here. Like a couple of people said that kind of stuff, which is much worse. He made a very tasteful joke. And then Will Smith went and slapped him. So no more Will
He
Smith.
didn't slap him hard though.
He slapped him hard, boy. Did you see that slap? I watched it for like 3 days.
On repeat.
On repeat. So no. The Will Smith book is out, and his wife's book is out, or his husband's book is out. We don't read his book either.
Okay, tell us our topic. Give it a name.
There's no name. It's a theory. A question that I've been pondering and asking people about. So I'd be interested to hear your guys' opinion. So basically, I heard this woman talking and she was saying, like, you can't crave what you've never had. So she used a reference to, like, she had kids and they've only been really having, like, high protein meals for breakfast. And her kid at a certain age went to go sleep over at a friend and he was given cereal. And he's like, what's this? And, like, for the rest of his day, this kid was just a maniac. But if you've never had anything, you also can't crave it. So people are like, oh, well, I can't do without my morning coffee. No names mentioned.
The house this morning to hang out, and I made him a coffee, and I didn't have a coffee because my first coffee is at 10 o'clock.
I can't do without my evening glass of wine to relax, or so. There's lots of different references to these things. Like for myself, I've never had a Coke. I never crave a Coke on a hot summer's day, or I've never had a coffee. I didn't crave a coffee when I wake up in the morning. Same with alcohol. Like I never drank beer. Don't know what that is. Do I feel like I've been deprived by never having these things? No, in a sense, it's actually a bit of like freedom to knowing that I don't have these things hanging over my head that I have to feel like I need a good time or enjoy a moment or get my day started or certain things like that. And I suppose this is things where, maybe you can speak this more as a parent, like what are you giving your kids or what are we putting into our lives that we might later regret? And how can we actually go, is this something that I want to introduce, whether that is a beverage, whether that is smoking, whether that is anything along those lines, that at a different stage I'm going to be like, hey, did I really need this or did I really want this?
Yeah, I think the big thing for the kids is we trying to just keep them away from too many sugars, but then again to try let them still at a party have as much as they want and realize how shit they feel. So like yesterday they had cooking day. And they won't really have too much cake. Like James will have a little bit of the icing and he won't even eat the cake part. Ems, she does go to town sometimes, but she's starting to very quickly, by not having something, just kind of not finish a sweet or finish something. So also coaching a PT and they said, well, like what do you give your kids as, because we were talking about lunch boxes. So we went through both of our lunch boxes, spoke about that, and then we shifted over to what they drink. my kids don't know better than water. So water it is. It's bubbly water, or it's maybe a revived water, and then Ems drinks the magnesium fizzies with me. There's actually like a kiddies version. But they don't know better. So for them to drink a juice, they won't even finish it. Or for them to, they haven't even had really sodas, but they don't even finish their slushy. So I mean, when I order a slushy, if we go to Stodels, I actually ask for one to divide, and then I tell them just to make it like a little third, because they don't finish it, or it's just too much for them. So I think it's making sure that from a young age you don't just allow them to continuously have this at granny, have it at school. We pick our days very, very perfectly. So Wednesdays is cooking day, Fridays is kind of Snoopy Dag, and those days we don't give them anything else because we know that they're having two sweets on a Friday, whatever it is. So I think it's by controlling it. But in your case, we say you haven't had a beer, haven't had this. Um, it's because I think some people are also put off by the smell of a beer, smell of a whiskey. So then try and steer away from that kind of like introduction to your kids. I mean, I drink a beer now because I enjoy it. I don't drink an alcoholic beer, but I drink like a Devil's Peak Hero or a Heineken Zero because I enjoy drinking that if it's hot, whatever it is. But I mean, I haven't had a beer for a couple of weeks now because it's getting cooler, whatever it is. So it's also an enjoyment thing of I drink this because I enjoy it, not because I crave it or because I owe myself this beverage or whatever it is. So
Craving, and then there's also, do people develop a dependency on certain things? And that's what I when I came back to, like, do you really want to introduce this? Because where can it lead you down that sort of road? Not that this thing's necessarily super unhealthy, as it might not be like, hey, you're not going to die because you had an extra glass of wine every night. But for often, sometimes these things do become cruxes in people's life. Like, oh, I can't get my day started because I haven't had that thing yet. Or like, I won't be able to relax tonight because I don't have that glass of wine. Or maybe it's more than just one glass of wine. Um, and I mean, like, you could obviously take this topic like super far back and go, in this parallel universe where sugar wasn't invented, if I was never given sugar, what would my life be like today? Would I have better focus? Would my risk of diabetes, dementia, heart disease, all of these things be, how much reduced would they be? If I could take that pull and make that happen, would I do that, give up on the cupcakes and the ice cream and that sort of thing to sort of make that happen? Not struggle with that person who has a weight issue. And even that type of thing, like, I believe the more that stuff is given to a person at a younger age, the more they develop that sort of craving and sweet teeth within inside of them that gets harder to get rid of as one gets in. So it's like, do you want to go down that road? So like, and I mean, even something like, I might have had something as a kid that I feel like a week later, oh, like that would be nice to have. But because I haven't had it for a great extended period of time, I'm not going to crave that thing anymore because I've gotten over that sort of taste bud or that sort of feel or something. So, there, and we all have, like, for a lot of people, they have these things in their lives, like, no, my life wouldn't be the same if I don't have McDonald's once a week, and how much are these things holding you back from your health or where you could be? So for me, I think that's the reference of the topic of, like, you won't crave it so much if you haven't had it, or if you haven't been having it for a long period of time.
yeah, I mean, like I just tell guys, just don't have it in your pantry. So I was sitting with the clients last week, and the big concern was that they're buying it, they put it in their pantry, and it's there. So you've just got to not buy it. So like the issue was like, oh, I'm eating this, I'm eating that, I'm picking on my kids' lunchboxes. Well, you should be packing your kids' lunchbox a little bit healthier, so that if you are picking your kids' lunchbox, it's something healthy. I mean, I go to the kids' lunchbox straight after I get home from work to see what they haven't eaten, and I'm looking for the fruit because it's what I want to put with my little evening cereal thing. So put something in there and don't have it. So I mean, cutting these things out are easy, and it's easier than what people think. Like, oh, but it's hard to cut this out. No, it's not. Just don't buy it. Just don't have it. If you're trying to cut out that glass of wine, have a non-alcoholic wine. Have something else. Make yourself a cup of tea. I mean, that's why I changed the morning routine from that coffee, because I would say that I was, I wouldn't say dependent on it, but it started to become, oh, I am just having coffee again and again and again. So now I have tea in the morning, and it's with salt, and it's a different routine. Now it's not even routine. I feel like having a cup of coffee, so I'm going to have one. It's not, I need to have this cup of coffee. And I think that's what guys need to do is try pick out something in their day that they feel like they need to have. Highlight if it's something that's actually detrimental to their health or bad for their health, and then cut it out if it is, or cut down on it at first and then cut it out. I mean, cutting down on sugar in your coffee is the first thing. Then still keep the coffee. Then think, okay, cool, I'm having 6 cups of coffee still. Okay, maybe let's bring this down to 3. Now I should have my coffee between 10 and 2 so that I'm sleeping well. So try and identify what this bad thing is, because I see caffeine as a bad thing. So you introduce coffee into your kid's life. Kids shouldn't be having coffee before they're 16. So if kids are then having coffee after they're 16, now I'm talking to like one of the kids here at Paul Rose about his coffee. He's got an espresso machine in his room. Okay, cool. How many are having it? No, this. Okay, so go and get decaf capsules. Ask your mom to, instead of, because mom's got money, buy decaf capsules. Now you're having 4 cups of coffee a day, and it's without sugar, and it's XYZ. So bring that whole bad thing down to actually make it something that you enjoy if you want to still have it. So sugar's obviously the big one that you want to have a look at.
Yeah, but it's been truthful with yourself in that moment as well, though. Like, why am I really having this thing? And what purpose is it actually serving? Am I just enjoying that taste and in that sort of moment? Or, hey, is it actually a little bit of kick, or is it actually a buzz that I'm after, that I'm sort of getting from this thing? And a lot of people maybe don't want to admit that to themselves, and that's also why I said you have to be truthful with when you are, where you are going with that.
Yeah, and I think that then moves into being, so this leads me into my favorite topic at the moment is just alcohol as well. Like the person I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, she was saying that she wants to feel a little bit tipsy. Like she's had a long day, kids, had a history, whatever it is. She wants to feel a little bit drunk. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try and get away from you wanting to feel that. Let's try and be better being sober. Like, how can we work about feeling better at the end of the day, or maybe with something else? Is it a cold ice bath? Is it maybe, just a nootropic, like a different nootropic? Or let's try get just you feeling better at the end of the day because we may be cutting out a bunch of sugars or whatever it is, carbohydrates. So it's like, how do I cut this bad thing out, which is alcohol, which is bad, and how do I get it to be zero alcohol?
I think there's an element of realizing, like what Neil's saying. I agree with what Neil's saying. So if you've never had it, you're probably better off for it. The fact is we have. Okay, not everyone grew up like Neil, where it was like you never had a Coke. I think most of us grew up in a reward environment. You did well on the test, let's go out for milkshakes. It was never let's go out for salad, ever. And I think that's also, Neil and I have had this discussion before, is like, where did this culture of rewarding ourselves with things that are bad for us come from? The poison reward. I've had a hard week at work. I want a night out where I go drinking. That's my reward. And it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting social construct that's come about of, in society, when we do something good, we generally go and screw it up.
The funniest one is you go to hospital. So you go to hospital for being sick. What's the first thing you take your body in hospital? A chocolate. Like the person.
You go to the doctor and you'll see suckers on the for the kid if they're good. Here's some sugar.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. So I mean that's the first step. Like we need to look at why we don't reward the kids. So I was telling you the other day, Emily had a little bit of a tantrum. I just shut up. Like shut up.
Yeah.
And do this. Thank you.
I think it's one thing to realize, okay, we are in a society where we need to be cognizant of the fact that we do the wrong things once we've done the right things. And you need to start reframing that. But what you must understand is you very seldom crave the thing you're craving. Or I would say you never crave. When you have a craving chocolate, oh my goodness. Your brain, that chocolate doesn't go to your brain. You understand? Like, sure, your body processes the sugar and the cocoa, but your brain interprets dopamine, serotonin. Like, neurotransmitters are what cause this when you have that cold whiskey at the end of the day. It's not really the alcohol that you're craving. It's the neurochemical enhancement that happens when you consume that thing. And all that is really, and I'm just going to put it as is, it's an addiction. It's alcoholism, it's sugarism, whatever it is, lism. You're addicted to something, but you're addicted to the response that happens in your brain when you consume that thing. Your brain knows that when it has that, then it gets this response. So you think, I'm addicted to chocolate, I'm addicted to alcohol. You're not really. You're addicted to dopamine and serotonin, essentially. So what we have also learned in more in-depth scientific studies is you can't really break an addiction. Once your body is addicted to something, it never, ever, ever changes. So when people go cold turkey, there are some people who are very strong, and over time it does improve. Generally, those people always want what they've had. So now we're in a world, okay, I wish I had never been exposed to cereal, but I have, and I freaking love it. So what now? You have to kind of make a best decision now. And I think the most important thing is what you were saying is if you realize you have an addiction and you realize it can't be broken, you have to start figuring out how do you replace it. What is the thing you can put in that place that will give you the serotonin and dopamine response without the bad thing that you're having? And there are, like you say, there's lots of different things that can do that. Cold exposure is one of them. Exercise is one of them. Healthy eating is one of them. You can start building patterns where you start becoming dopamine and serotonin released in healthy environments. And then you start craving these good things. So you start looking at people who are like, I can't get my day started until I've exercised. Very interesting. And they literally can't. They crave that endorphin release and they're just terrible unless they've exercised. That's a very healthy addiction. So you're replacing addictions. You're not trying to get rid of addictions.
Would you say that if someone, let's talk about maybe an alcoholic, so someone that's an alcoholic, they were clean and now they kind of slipped up and they're at the point now where they're like, but at the end of the day, I want to have a drink because I feel better. Now, I don't want to advocate that person then rather smokes a joint or does some kind of microdosing of some psilocybin, something like that. But do you think that's a better option than the person having a drink at the end of the day at their 60-year-old life that they're at?
I think it depends again on.
Cold turkey or to completely clean might be impossible. And obviously nothing's impossible, but we want to just come to realize that this person actually isn't fixable. So what's the best option for them? You know, I still see alcohol as the worst thing because it's doing other things to their body and breaking down other things, whereas THC could be a better option, you know, like a small dose THC. It doesn't have to be massive, but to take the edge off, you know.
So what we generally find with those kind of approaches is they have the alcohol anyway. They'll do that once or twice and then they'll add the alcohol. So they'll wait for you to leave and they'll have the alcohol. So generally they don't, with other sort of like drugs, if we can call it that, we don't see massive benefit. There are people who can replace it and they do get off it and it does happen, but rarely. It's more a case of while I was here, I smoked a joint and then I was fine and then you left and then I had the alcohol anyway. So alcoholism's a big one. It's a very difficult thing to break. Generally, if you're younger, going cold turkey is more feasible than if you're older. It's very difficult to go cold turkey if you're older. You'll need a dose response, so to bring it down over a long period of time. Drink less and less and less until you're drinking nothing, the same as what you would do to sugar in your coffee, just less and less and less until consuming none. That would be the best strategy. But truth be told, it's always going to be something that they crave. And they have to accept that, and they have to make the decision every day. It's literally going to come down to willpower.
So what I wanted to so Neil had obviously this good question of like, if you haven't had it, will you crave it? What do you think we should try get someone like me with kids to not introduce into, like, I mean, it's obviously an exception, you not having quite a few things of what a lot of people have: coffee, alcohol, soda. I mean, you still do have an ice cream or a donut. I mean, there's not this massive sugar issue. So there is sugar in some kind of lifestyle that you do have. And we obviously accept that carbohydrates are okay for someone like you to be having because you need carbohydrates for all the various reasons of what we've spoken about in nutrition. But what would you then want me to? So, like, let's say we didn't really know each other and you care for my kids or whatever it is to some degree. What do you think I shouldn't be introducing into my kids' lifestyles?
Well, I mean, you know, the biggest problem for most of us that we face on a day-to-day basis is going to be the food we eat and what we're drinking. So, I mean, like, if we're talking about addiction and things and getting off it, so, I mean, I've heard stories of guys who have gotten off heroin, but at the same time, they've been 300 pounds and needed to lose weight. And getting off heroin was easier than losing the weight because the food is around you 24/7. All right. So, you know, if feeding your kids sugar as a reward system for getting good behavior, like that's what you do, like with a dog, like, hey, here's a treat, do what I need you to do. What are you setting that kid up for? Like, you teaching them that food is a reward. That's where you're getting this response from, and you creating that neural pathway in them for when they get older, like, oh, I did something good, like Ben's saying, let me reward myself with more food. And where does that translate to? So you need to break those habits of teaching kids that food is a reward system. Like, no, that's not what it is. Like, let's base it on nutrition and what you're getting out of it. So we need to be careful of those habits that we teach our kids. And at the same time, like, those neural pathways of building up a sugar process and what this means to me, the more you ingrain that, the harder it gets out of. Like, we've spoken to people who struggle with weight from a kid and gone, like, hey, but like, I walk past this chocolate and I just need to have it. Like, it's talking to me, sort of thing. And that's generally someone who might have had some sort of weight issue from a background. Like, I've never been overweight. Even for me, not having alcohol or not having a Coke, it wasn't like I was deprived of my parents, like, you're not ever having that stuff. Somehow, or whatever way, don't ask me whatever, I decided as a kid that that wasn't healthy and I wasn't going to have it. And as I grew up, I never found the need to have it. I'm like, well, if I haven't had it now, what's the point of me having it? So, that's what I'm saying. Like, by starting with some forms of elimination, and like, yes, your kid's gonna get exposed to these things at a young age, but you've ingrained some sort of habit and thought process around food and what they're putting in their body that they can take that for them the rest of their life. Not just like, hey, this is around, I'm gonna have it because it's there, and what else is. It's teaching them those habits and those processes that they can make better choices as they're going along. And it's, again, a tolerance thing. Like, if you've been fed a whole lot of sugar, you need more and more sugar the whole time to sort of get that hit that you're sort of wanting. If you haven't, like, I haven't had that amount, I'm going to go have something else. I'm like, just like, I didn't feel good after having that amount. But for people who are doing it all the time, they don't have that response as easily. So, all of those things are factors to take in consideration when it's like elimination or prevention, again, is the best cure than trying to backtrack at a later point when you've gone deep down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, so I think where, and I don't want to say I'm parenting perfect, but I mean, I think I'm on a good wicket because of obviously all these discussions that I'm having with you guys and because of how I'm trying to help other people around me. It's like you say, like, let it be in that person's life, let them try it. Like, you don't have to not try it, but I mean, let them have that sugar at the party, but try the whole time. I mean, MZ always goes, Daddy, is this healthy? So I'm just trying to teach her, like, this is a healthy food. This isn't a healthy food. This we do have on occasion. This we don't have on occasion. It's, you can have this when you're at granny, or like, those are not things that we have on an everyday lifestyle, and it's not in the pantry. It's not in the cupboard. You have it when you are at a party or whatever it is. And they very quickly, they are, like I said earlier, like, they're not able to eat too much because they're not used to it. Like you say, like, there's that, like, overdose. They like go to a party, you very quickly see Em's just like have a little bit and it's too sweet, so just put it down. Or they'll have a sweetie and just take the packet and put it down because it's too sweet. So it's try not have it on an everyday, try not let it be around them the whole time. Try and understand what you're trying to not have in your lifestyle. I think alcohol is the first thing. Try and not have alcohol in your kids' lives. Try and teach them that it's a bad thing from a young age. Caffeine's another one. Try and only let them have it from when they're like over 16 and teach them about it and when to have it in the day. So it's sugar, caffeine, or then the sugar one was the last one. And that's just because sugar, don't have it as a reward, but also try limit it in the day because it's so easy to eat a diet based on sugar and then on top of that go to a party or have a reward on top of that. It's just like now you're getting three things in that, or you're introducing three things into your life that are highly detrimental to your lifestyle.
I think that's good. Obviously, kids are an easier target than older people. Older people who have been in these and they've formed the habits is quite difficult. I think one thing I'll add is when you are an adult, so let's say you're in your 20s and on, for you to make changes that are going to be meaningful to your life is not going to happen unless you change the people you're hanging around. It's the same thing with the heroin and the food. You're more likely to be fat because there's always food around. It's the same thing with the people you associate with. If you put 10, or let's say 9 fit, healthy, mentally stable men in a room and add one fat, depressed guy, I guarantee you, and they were only allowed to socialize with each other, that other guy would be lifted up. He would start training more. He'd start watching what he's eating. He'd start thinking in more healthy patterns just because of the people he's around. Very rarely are you going to find someone who goes, you know what, I'm going cold turkey with this alcohol. I'm never touching alcohol again. And then I'm still going to go to the pub and hang out with my boys, but I'm not going to drink. It'll never work. And that's what people do, not just, I mean, alcohol is a very easy example, but that's what they do with friends. Okay, I'm going to cut out sugar. Okay, fine. Me and Garth are quickly going to go for coffee and croissants, but I'm not going to have a croissant. And we're also inviting 4 other people. They'll have cupcakes, but I'm going to have coffee. For sure, for the first time, you'll probably do that. And the second time, maybe. Time number 10, you're probably going to have a bite of Garth's croissant. You know what I mean? So if you are looking to make meaningful changes, like genuinely you're looking to take control of your health, you have to start looking at who are you socializing with. And it's tough because like it'll be family members who are bringing you down. And you have to realize like this is a problem. Genuinely. You have to start cutting people out of your life who are bringing you down.
Try to introduce yourself introduce yourself into an environment where there's like-minded people around you. And I think that's just where I started to fit in as well. So I mean, coming from a rugby background, drinking on a Saturday night with all the team, like it's not a good place to be. And then very quickly did I find that when I went into the CrossFit scene, that like, oh, this is where I need to be. Like-minded people. I'm starting to learn more. And then the last couple of years, just having Neil around, I've learned even furthermore on the mental health side and a whole bunch of things. So it's almost thankful that I've got these people around me, because like I would have been down a different rabbit hole if I didn't even not find CrossFit back in the day, but it's other people. I mean, if I didn't find CrossFit, I wouldn't have found Vicky, So there's like all these things that have led, one good thing did lead to the other, and you can just put yourself into a good stead the whole time if you just around good people.
It's very interesting though that people they'll realize that, they'll hear what you're saying, and then they'll not take actionable steps or make actionable plans towards it. It's like anyone will walk into a room and see a guy who's like super fit and looks really good, and they'll be like, oh, that guy probably has an eating plan and has a structured training plan and has taken time to get there. Then you'll see someone approach business and they'll just do something to get rich, and they are surprised when they didn't get rich, or they'll just cut out calories to lose weight, and they'll be surprised when it stops working because there wasn't a structured plan. You have to plan everything. If you're going to get off addiction, whether that addiction is alcohol or that addiction is feeding your obesity or whatever it is, you have to have a structured plan. You have to sit down, literally, with a pen and paper, write a pros and cons column, figure out where you want to be, and then make a plan towards that. And it can't be I will figure it out when the moment comes, because you'll screw it up. I guarantee you, in the moment, you make bad decisions. You have to have made absolutes before the time.
So then I think Neil's thing is just don't have it. And obviously I'm not going to say impossible, but for the 99% of us, it's impossible. So the next step is let's limit it. So let's highlight the things that are detrimental to our health. Let's start cutting back on them, limit them. And then the third thing there, which should be the first thing, is let's plan not to have it. So make a good plan and try not have it.
And to realize
work back from that.
Your social circumstance is what's driving your addiction. It is.
So what you're doing, what you're not planning to do.
It's who you're with as well. Like who you're with makes a massive. If you're with people who are always holding you accountable and always encouraging you to go forward, you're going to go forward. It's that simple. People need to be way more intentional with the friends they make and the people they hang out with.
People that I've dealt with and dealing with. So like you'll have guys who are like, I need to stop drinking as much. I'm like, well, change your friends. Yeah, but I can't do that. It's a whole FOMO thing. Like, but if your friends been drinking, you wouldn't be drinking, but you don't want to give up your friends. But I mean, are they really your friends, or are they just your drinking buddies?
100%. So when they say I can't do, I say you can. You 100% can.
Like,
you should. Not only can, you should. You should like cut. Oh, it's my sister. I can't cut her out of your life completely.
If it's not moving up, it's pulling you down.
It's pulling you down.
And
there
like,
is no gray area.
Do you want to let that thing pull you down?
100%.
And it's like that's where you have to face the harsh truths on these things. And most people are afraid of that, So, and it's the same. You go out for dinner, everyone's having a pizza, and you want to have a salad, and the guy's going to be like, "What are you doing? Oh, well, you know what I mean, You're counting your calories." And it's like, those are the guys that are bringing you down.
Don't go out with that person for pizza and then just go and have your salad by yourself, because you're going to feel better, and you're not going to have that person bitching at you because...
And it's also, again, it's not about the pizza. You can have pizza, but if that's your problem and your friends are pushing you towards your problem, they're not your friends.
They should be the first person to be like, hey, G, you're going to have that salad again?
Yes.
Because you remember, you need to cut that shit out of your life because you're struggling. Thanks, but let's go out for another pizza. A pizza because that person's actually positive in my life,
And you have to respect people's choices, And like one of the things that also gets to me is when people go, yeah, but you can have that because you will get away with it. Like you're not going to gain weight, or hey, that kid is skinny, so they can eat those sweets and that chocolate. it's not about the weight gain or the this and that. It's what are you teaching and what are you learning in the process. Like, I don't want to eat that because I know I'm not going to feel good. It doesn't matter if I gain weight or not. It's like, it's my choice to not do that. Like, I had a client say to me today, like, what if we got you drunk just once so you can experience a hangover? I'm like, why would I want that? Like, where's the benefit in me knowing what a hangover feels like? There's nothing in that for me. And yeah, that is just a power of association and your choice at the end of the day, how you want to live your life and the standards you're going to hold yourself to.
Agreed. I've never in my life ever been drunk, and I've never in my life taken a drug, anything, weed, mushrooms, like not one thing ever. And a lot of people will approach me and say, "Oh, but don't you want to just try it once? Like, what if you like it?" If I like it, I'm going to take it more, and it's going to be detrimental to my health, and I'm going to regret having taken it. If I take it and I don't like it, I'm going to regret having taken it. So it's two regrets. Like, there is no upside to this.
That's a topic that I would think maybe on my podcast, maybe talk to you with, because there's certain things that I have used or not used that I'm very happy I don't use. But then at some point, I'm like, okay, I regret doing that. And then that speaks for exactly what you said. So if you just don't have it, you'll be fine. And that even goes back all the way back to where Neil was. I just haven't had it, so why am I going to start now? You know?
Exactly. And I think probably people who are listening to this podcast are going to not be children. It's going to be people who are looking to take control of their health. Just like, it's very simple. Is this adding to or detracting from where you want to be? Because like Neil says, if it's not pushing you towards, it's pulling you away. And it's a harsh realization. And sometimes you have to understand that to have loving connections with people is hard. Love is a hard emotion. It's not only rainbows and roses. It's hard conversations often. For example, we have my parents staying over. They've come to visit for a week. And this morning I got up and I'm going to the gym because like it's gym time. And my hands are just so sore from being on the crutches. I can like almost not hold anything. And then like I can only do upper body at the gym. My foot's hurting. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. I'm on my way to the gym. My mom says to me, "Don't you want to just not go to the gym today? Like, you need a rest day. Give your body a break." And I had to be quite hard on her and say, "Mom, that's not good that you're trying to hold me back. You should be encouraging me now. And I don't appreciate that you're bringing that up with me." Like, that's not a nice conversation to have with a mom who's just trying to love you.
Wait,
Yeah,
don't go do that.
She's just
Here's a cookie.
she's trying to look after me, and which is wonderful. And I'm so grateful that I have that. But I also have to explain to her, me going to the gym is not necessarily a physical thing. It's self-discipline that I'm instilling in myself every single day. Sometimes it's about I'm challenging myself to go anyway. Yes, I agree with you. My hands would feel much better if I skipped today. I get that. But this is a journey that I've decided to take every single day of my life. And if you're not on board, butt out.
Thing about parents, like sometimes it's one of the hardest jobs because you want your kid to feel good and whatever, but sometimes they need to feel bad to learn something in that process because that's where growth comes from. So your choice to go to the gym and this is going to be hard, it's a growth process, which is iron sharpening iron, that whole sort of thing. But if you go, cool, here's a soft little pillow, take an extra nap this morning, like, did you move the needle forward? No, you actually went backwards because you didn't make that hard choice, and now it's going to make it a little bit harder tomorrow.
Then the question is that actually love? Is it love to show your child compassion? Obviously, there are times where compassion is necessary, but what I'm saying is love can be a very hard emotion of, I love you, so I'm holding you to the standard to say, you are going. I don't care if your hand falls off. You are going.
Yeah. And I think especially when you're looking at parents and even younger kids, it's one of those things where it goes to like, they can't make that decision yet because they're not mentally there or haven't experienced life enough. And you sometimes have to make that choice for them because often it becomes this other side of like, no, well, have what you have and be happy and whatever else. But that's a temporary happiness. It doesn't lead to long-term happiness. It actually leads to long-term depression or sadness down the road potentially.
And you're teaching them that happiness is the goal, which it shouldn't be. Because generally, and I know this sounds terrible, there are studies done on this that people who chase happiness and achieve happiness gain depression in their older years. So you become 30, 40, 50, those are the people who struggle with depression. The people who in an early age were encouraged to chase fulfillment are the people who have long-term happiness as a byproduct. And they rate their happiness. So there's like different like international scales that you like rate these things on. It's very carefully studied. People who were encouraged to chase fulfillment had more happiness and fewer rates of depression than people who are encouraged to chase the sort of hedonism or hedonic lifestyle of happiness. Happiness should never be the goal. Fulfillment should be the goal.
And fulfillment, it's also that whole thing of like enjoy the process, not just the reward at the end of the process, because the process is the hard work, and that's where you're going to learn and grow from. Like whether you passed or failed, but you gave it your best shot, that's what actually counts the most, sort of thing, at the end of the day.
I think for me, I was very out of you guys talking now, but I'm just thinking like parenting. I just got very into my own head, but parenting is very tough at the moment. Trying to do the right thing at the right time, and then going like, okay, that was the wrong thing, or like I shouldn't have rewarded that, or I shouldn't have done this. It's very hard. So I mean, for me, it's just to try and I think I'm trying to be less rewarding of things and then going, oh, okay, I should have been more loving because I'm not saying my kids are over loved, but it's both grannies. Vicky's very loving with them, things like that. So it kind of sucks a bit because I have to be that hard like person the whole time. And at some point I'm like, but I just want to be a little bit loving, and it sucks a bit. Like it sucks a bit to be a dad or the father figure, whatever it is. But I know that I have to do it.
That's what I'm saying. Love is a difficult emotion. It's
very
very,
hard.
very hard.
Especially because I'm a bit of a softie. Like, you guys know me quite well. I'm the first person to cry. Like, I don't go to funerals because I'll just be sitting there sobbing my ass off, whatever it is. So it's very hard being someone that is a bit soft, like, to then now have to discipline the whole time. And it sucks. Like, I get, like, the other night I was actually telling Vicky, like, this is, like, I'm actually upset. Like, I'm actually a bit sad now because I had to spend the whole flipping night disciplining both these kids. You know? And it sucks, man. Like,
I once had probably like 10 years ago, I think I was in my mid 20s. My folks came to me and apologized for how hard I was. I was brought up fairly hard. I had good discipline instilled, put it that way. And they came and apologized for how strict they'd been. Not once had I ever considered what they were talking to me about. I was like I physically could not remember a time where I felt unjustly treated and I got beatings all the time, like all the time. And I can look back and remember seeing how distraught my parents were. I didn't notice in the time because I was just like pissed off about it, but like they were genuinely distraught about having to hit me. They hated it. Okay, there were times I don't think they hated it that much.
so,
But
I mean, that's what we discussed at one point. Like, remember I said I hit Ems too hard, or like I gave Ems like a final. I'm like, that's it, no more smacks.
yeah,
Because now I think back, and then I think that I'm being too tough. But then I think back,
Not at
I'm like,
all.
my dad beat the crap out of me. Like, then my mom would actually beat us, and then still tell my dad, like, they didn't get hard enough hiding.
Yes.
Like, I tried to give God the hiding, he got away, or he
Yes.
he irritated me too much. I left him. He needs another hiding.
So
And I think back,
what I'm
like,
saying
it's
is
not a bad thing,
what I'm saying is, okay, we're not promoting child abuse.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think that what we perceive our children, how they're perceiving it, is different to how we perceive it. If I look back as a child, if you look back as a child with your proper beatings, you still love your dad. You're crazy about it. Like, you'd die for him in a heartbeat. It's not like, oh, I feel this unhealthy thing. You know, there are lots of unhealthy physical abuse. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, and we should be very cognizant of that. I'm not demeaning that in any way. But what I am saying is, as a parent, I don't think you need to be as hard on yourself as you are. I think you can give yourself a little bit of leeway to say, even if I did go a little bit overboard, let's say I did, probably it would have been better than underboard.
Yeah. And it's good that you can recognize it. Like, I can recognize when I'm like, okay, that was too much.
And there's no freaking handbook, really. There's no one going like, oh, by the way, God, this is how you need to treat your
For
kid.
that situation,
because I've done it perfectly. No one. So when you get it slightly wrong, you're doing the best you can. Like, oftentimes there's stuff that I look back in my life where I'm like, I wish I had done something differently. I wish I had treated someone differently. But if I can genuinely look back and say, at the time, I was doing the best I could. I genuinely thought what I was doing was the right thing. So do I regret it? No. Like, how can you regret something you genuinely felt was the best thing for the person at the time? And then you introspect and you grow, and you should be able to do that and say, I was wrong. I would like to do this differently going forward. Introspection and growth is massively important. But is regret an important part? That's what I said to my folks. I was like, please forget about it. Like, if anything, you should have beaten me more. Like, thank you. Thank you for what you've done.
And you wouldn't look back on those times and be like, oh, I wish I never had some of those. Like, you're probably grateful for the lessons you learned there because it shaped you in terms of who you are now. And without them, you probably would have been worse off, and that's what needs to sort of happen, like, you're going to have hardships in your life, and it's there to sort of test you and for you to learn from it. Not oh, why is this happening to me scenario. It's just face those things head on and grow into a stronger, better person you were the day before,
I think parenting is really hard, and I have nothing but respect for you doing what you're doing, because I think it's the ultimate difficulty.
But it's just mental health around parenting. 'cause
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
tough.
it's a big thing.
All right, so don't give your kids sugar. Just don't give it to them. Don't give your kids caffeine or alcohol, and that's it. It's easy. All right, guys.
Deprived to survive.
Just
I
be
like that.
deprived. You'll be fine.
We should get those tattoos. Deprive.
The shirts in the
We
mail.
get like a deprive to survive, and then when we stand there,
I'm gonna go pee. Otherwise, I'm gonna pee in my pants.